Hey there, deep divers. Ready to go deep.
Yeah.
Today we're diving into the Sega Dreamcast,
Oh, yeah.
a console that, well, didn't stick around for long,
Yeah, it had a short lifespan.
but it left a mark
A huge one.
on the gaming world. And we've got articles, videos lined up to really dissect this whole thing.
Okay.
Its rise, its fall, and why it still matters all these years later.
It's a story that captures the imagination, doesn't it? I mean, how could a console that wasn't a commercial success end up shaping the whole industry?
Exactly. To understand the Dreamcast, we need to rewind a bit.
Okay.
Back to the mid-90s.
Right.
Sega was not in a good spot
Not a great spot. No.
after the Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn.
It didn't quite.
It did not meet expectation.
No. Sony's PlayStation was out.
Yep.
Nintendo 64 was ruling the market,
Dominating.
leaving Sega scrambling.
They were definitely at a crossroads.
A comeback.
Make or break time.
So they went all in on this console that's almost like beamed in from the future.
The Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast.
And this was a time when the console market was super competitive.
Oh, yeah.
Every company pushing the limits, trying to outdo each other.
And the Dreamcast was packed with features
Oh, yeah.
that were mind-blowing.
Back then, yeah.
Back in 1998.
Crazy to think about it now.
I know. Imagine playing games
I know.
with graphics unlike anything you'd ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Dreamcast delivered.
Yeah.
With its 128-bit processor.
So it meant smoother graphics, faster processing.
Yeah.
And it was a huge jump in processing power.
It was like jumping from standard definition to high definition overnight.
Overnight.
But it wasn't just the visuals, right?
No.
This is also the first console with a built-in modem for online gaming.
We take it for granted now, but back then it was revolutionary.
To connect with someone across the country.
In real time.
Yeah.
On your console at home.
And no one else was doing that.
It was a glimpse into the future, and it quickly became the industry standard.
Remember those clunky memory cards?
Oh, yeah.
The Dreamcast had the VMU.
With its own screen.
It had its own little screen.
Crazy.
You could play mini games on it.
The VMU, short for Visual Memory Unit, was brilliant.
I know.
It wasn't just storage, it was an extension of your gaming experience.
I know, and they even used GD-ROMs.
GD-ROMs, gigabyte discs.
What were those again?
Like CDs on steroids.
Okay.
They could hold way more data than a standard CD-ROM.
So bigger games.
Bigger, more ambitious games.
It was a gamble for Sega.
It was new technology.
Yeah.
But they were betting on the future.
So we've got this powerhouse console.
Yeah.
Packed with cutting-edge tech. Launching into a competitive market.
Very competitive.
How did it do?
Well, the Dreamcast's launch, especially in North America, was phenomenal.
Really?
Record-breaking first-day sales.
Wow.
$97 million in the U.S. alone.
Wow, that's huge.
People were excited.
What do you think contributed to that success?
I think a few things.
Okay.
First, Sega's marketing was spot on.
Okay.
They hyped it up
Yeah.
as the future of gaming.
Okay.
And second, they had some really strong launch titles.
Like
Sonic Adventure.
Okay.
Which brought Sonic into 3D.
Okay.
And Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur was amazing.
It set a new standard for fighting games.
But even with that amazing start, there were some warning signs.
There were some early warning signs, yeah.
What were those?
Well, first, a shortage of graphics chips hurt the Japanese launch.
Oh, no.
And then Sony announced the PlayStation 2.
Oh.
Which promised even more power.
And a DVD player.
Yeah, DVDs were the hot new thing back then.
It was a big deal.
It was.
So suddenly the Dreamcast, which was all about GD-ROMs, looked a little
less appealing.
Less appealing.
Yeah.
It's almost Shakespearean.
It is kind of a tragic story.
This revolutionary console.
Yeah.
Facing challenges right out of the gate.
Right away.
What were some of the key factors that led to its downfall?
Well, the PS2's success definitely played a role.
Okay.
The hardware, DVD playback, aggressive marketing.
Yeah.
They just overwhelmed the Dreamcast.
Okay, but there was more to it than that, right?
Right.
I mean, what about the games themselves?
Yeah, third-party support is crucial.
Meaning?
Getting other big publishers to make games for your console.
Oh, so getting like the big companies.
Yeah, the big companies.
To say, yeah, we're going to make games for this.
Exactly.
Right.
And Sega struggled with that.
Oh, so they didn't get enough.
They didn't.
Of the big companies.
Not enough of the big publishers. No.
So like EA.
Yeah, companies like EA.
So they just kind of sat this one out.
Pretty much.
And that hurt sales.
Absolutely.
What about piracy? Wasn't that a big thing back then?
It was a huge problem.
Yeah?
Especially for the Dreamcast.
People were burning games onto CDs.
Yeah, the rise of CD burners.
Right.
And the fact that the Dreamcast could read those discs made it really vulnerable.
The piracy?
To piracy.
And of course, Sega was already struggling financially.
You were.
Because of the Saturn.
Yeah, it made it even harder to compete.
In such a cutthroat market.
It really was a cutthroat market back then.
Yeah, it's like they were fighting this battle on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
Things weren't going their way.
It's a classic case of being in the right place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
The Dreamcast was ahead of its time, but it was caught in a perfect storm of challenges.
But even though it wasn't a commercial success,
right,
it left a legacy.
A remarkable legacy.
More than just a footnote in gaming history.
Oh, absolutely.
It's time to delve into that legacy.
Okay.
Trust me, it's fascinating.
I'm ready.
What should we unpack first?
Let's start with online gaming.
Okay.
The Dreamcast was a pioneer in bringing online play to consoles.
Okay.
It paved the way for everything we see today.
Okay, let's dive in. I already see how this all unfolded.
All right, let's go. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Sega Dreamcast. It's amazing how this console still generates so much discussion and passion.
It really does. Even decades later, we talked about the Dreamcast's decline.
Right.
But what were the specific events that really sealed its fate?
Oh, remember the looming threat of the PlayStation 2? It launched in Japan in March 2000.
Okay.
The demand was incredible.
Really?
They sold over 600,000 PS2 units.
Wow.
On launch day alone.
On launch day?
Yeah, to put that in perspective.
Okay.
Sega had only sold 1 million Dreamcasts in Japan up to that point.
So at that point, Sega's hopes rested on the U.S. market.
Pretty much.
Where the Dreamcast was still doing okay.
Yeah, relatively well.
So what happened?
Well, Sega of America was trying everything to keep the momentum going.
Like what?
They even launched SegaNet.
What was that?
A subscription service for online gaming and web browsing. It was pretty ambitious for the time.
So you had to pay for it?
Yeah, it was $21.95 a month.
That's a lot back then.
It was. But you got access to online gameplay.
Okay.
Which was a huge selling point.
Did they offer any incentives to sign up?
They did, actually.
What was it?
If you signed up for a 2-year subscription, they gave you a free Dreamcast and a keyboard.
That's a pretty good deal.
It was a bold strategy.
Yeah.
But the situation was becoming increasingly difficult.
Oh, no.
Sega executives were already talking about leaving the hardware business.
Really?
Yeah, the financial losses were piling up, and then the Xbox came out.
In March 2000.
That's right.
Adding another competitor.
Another heavyweight contender.
To the mix.
Yeah, Microsoft was serious.
About the gaming market.
They wanted to shake things up.
So Sega was facing a battle on multiple fronts.
Absolutely.
The PlayStation 2, the GameCube was on the horizon.
Yep. And now the Xbox.
So the PS2's dominance.
Right.
Sega's financial troubles. And the increasing competition.
That was a perfect storm.
But wasn't there a moment, a brief glimmer of hope?
There was actually. In September 2000, Sony ran into some PS2 supply shortages in the U.S.
So they couldn't make them fast enough?
Not fast enough to meet demand. No.
Okay, and?
Plus, the initial PS2 launch titles weren't that impressive.
Yeah.
It was priced at twice the cost of the Dreamcast.
So for a short time, the Dreamcast actually had a price advantage.
It did.
That's interesting.
And that led to a surge in Dreamcast sales during the 2000 holiday season.
But it didn't last.
No, it was a short-lived victory.
So what happened?
On January 24th, 2001, Sega made an announcement.
What did they say?
They were discontinuing the Dreamcast.
Wow.
It was heartbreaking.
For a lot of fans.
It's a lot of gamers, yeah.
So the Dreamcast's reign lasted just 22 months.
That's right.
In contrast, Sony sold 10 million PlayStation 2s.
Wow.
In only 15 months.
That's a huge difference.
It shows how quickly things can change.
The gaming landscape changes fast.
But let's focus on something more positive.
Okay.
The Dreamcast's cultural impact.
Yeah, it's about more than just sales figures.
It fostered creativity, innovation, a sense of community.
It had a unique energy.
Yeah, there was a feeling that you were part of something special.
Like a secret club.
A secret club of cool kids who knew about this console before it was mainstream.
It was groundbreaking.
So how did the Dreamcast influence gaming culture? What were its lasting contributions?
Well, we talked about online gaming.
Yeah.
The Dreamcast normalized that
Right.
online play as a standard feature,
Yeah.
which paved the way for Xbox Live PlayStation Network.
All the online multiplayer experiences we have today.
Exactly. We take it for granted now.
I know. It's hard to imagine a world without it.
I know, right?
So the Dreamcast changed everything.
It really did.
What about specific genres?
Well, take Shenmue, for example.
Okay.
It was a groundbreaking open-world game.
I loved that game.
It was a huge influence on games like Grand Theft Auto III
Yeah.
and The Elder Scrolls III, Morrowind.
Those are huge games.
They are.
What about Phantasy Star Online?
Ah, yes. One of the first successful online RPGs
On a console
on a console.
that laid the groundwork for massively multiplayer games.
Exactly. Games like World of Warcraft.
Final Fantasy XIV.
Right.
It was a genuinely social experience.
It was ahead of its time.
What about the indie game scene?
Well, the Dreamcast had a big impact there, too.
Really?
Yeah. It's a relatively open architecture,
Okay.
and passionate community encouraged indie developers.
So even after Sega discontinued the Dreamcast,
Mm-hmm.
developers kept making new games.
They did.
That's incredible.
It's the power of a beloved platform.
So the Dreamcast was a commercial failure,
Ultimately, yes.
but it was a cultural triumph
It left a legacy of innovation, creativity, community.
that continues to inspire.
Absolutely, but what about its influence on specific games?
That's a great question.
Like, did any Dreamcast titles directly inspire later games?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear about that.
Well, there's Jet Set Radio, for example.
Oh, yeah.
A stylish, cel-shaded action game.
With inline skating?
Graffiti tagging a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, it was so cool.
And its influence can be seen in games like Tony Hawk's Underground
Okay.
and Sunset Overdrive.
I can see that.
Then there's Rez,
Oh, okay.
a truly groundbreaking on-rails shooter.
I remember that one.
It synchronized the visuals and the music,
To create a hypnotic experience.
almost synesthetic.
You can see its influence in games like Child of Eden.
Yeah, and Thumper.
That's true.
How about one more example?
Okay.
How about Space Channel 5?
Oh, Space Channel 5.
A quirky rhythm game
I loved that game.
with dance moves, alien invasions, a retro-futuristic aesthetic.
It was pure joy and absurdity.
It was.
And you can see its influence in games like Elite Beat Agents
Mhm.
and Just Dance.
Or like, those are just a few examples.
But it shows the Dreamcast's creativity,
And willingness to experiment.
and it directly influenced later games.
Exactly.
But the Dreamcast's legacy is more than specific titles.
It's a shift in thinking.
A new approach to game design.
The Dreamcast proved that video games could be more than just entertainment.
They could be art,
They could be social experiences.
anything you could imagine.
It was a catalyst for change.
So what else should we explore in this deep dive?
Well, we've talked about the Dreamcast's rise and fall,
Uh-huh.
its cultural impact, its influence on individual games.
What's left?
What about the people behind the Dreamcast?
The developers.
The fans who kept it alive.
Yeah, I like that.
Their stories are fascinating.
Okay.
And we'll delve into those stories in part 3 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. Welcome back, deep divers. It's amazing to me the passion that still surrounds the Dreamcast.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, even decades later.
I know.
We talked about the Dreamcast features, its impact,
Yeah.
but I think it's time to shine a light
Okay.
on the people
The people.
who've kept the Dreamcast spirit alive.
The unsung heroes.
Yeah, the developers, the
The
modders,
fans.
the fans who turned their passion
Mm-hmm.
into a movement.
Or real community.
Yeah, they're not just preserving the past.
Yeah.
They're actively pushing the boundaries
They are.
of what this console can do.
Absolutely.
It's like they've taken a piece of gaming history
Yeah.
and said, hey, we're not done with you yet.
There's more to explore.
There's still so much more
So much potential.
that we can create.
And they've proven that.
They have.
Time and time again.
New games porting existing ones.
Yeah.
Hardware modification.
They've breathed new life into this thing.
So can you give us some specific examples?
Of what the homebrew scene has done.
Yeah.
They've created so many new games for the Dreamcast.
Really?
All sorts of genres.
What, like platformers, shooters?
RPGs, puzzle games, you name it.
They've really pushed the limits of what the hardware can do.
They really have.
I'm impressed.
It's inspired.
And they're not stopping there, Ari.
No, they're also porting games from other platforms to the Dreamcast.
What? Games that were never meant to run on it.
Yeah.
So I could potentially play, like,
Mm.
a PlayStation game on my Dreamcast.
You could.
Wow.
It's a testament to the Dreamcast's architecture.
And the ingenuity of the community.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about software.
Yeah.
What about the hardware modding?
Oh, they've done some amazing things.
Like what?
Well, for instance, they've found ways to output the Dreamcast's video signal in high definition.
No more blurry visuals.
No more blurry visuals.
Wow.
So you can play your favorite Dreamcast games on modern TVs.
That's a game changer.
And they've upgraded the storage. If you can store more games, more homebrew applications.
Wow.
They've even added Wi-Fi connectivity.
No more bulky modems.
Exactly.
They've brought this 20-year-old console
20-plus years.
into the modern era.
Without losing its charm.
It's amazing.
It's a testament to their passion.
And their dedication.
Yeah, they've kept the Dreamcast alive.
In a way that few other consoles have.
It's about community.
Yeah.
It's about legacy.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of the Sega Dreamcast,
Yeah.
it's clear its story is far from over.
It's not over.
It was a commercial underdog,
Yeah,
but a creative trailblazer.
absolutely.
And thanks to the community that continues to embrace it,
Yeah,
the Dreamcast's legacy lives on.
it does.
The Dreamcast's impact extends
Yeah.
far beyond sales
Oh,
figures.
absolutely.
It's a story about passion, ingenuity, the power of video games,
To connect people.
and to inspire creativity
So,
as you revisit those classic Dreamcast titles.
yeah.
Or maybe discover some hidden gems.
Mhm.
Remember that you're part of something special.
You are.
You're part of a community that celebrates innovation,
The joy of gaming.
the joy of gaming, and the legacy
The legacy.
of a console that dared to dream big.
That's what it's all about.
And that, my friends, is what makes the Sega Dreamcast a story worth diving into.
Until next time.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep playing,
Keep that Dreamcast spirit alive.
and we'll see you on the next deep dive.